Amelia. It was truly a pleasure, and I know we'll have you back on the podcast very soon to discuss other issues. But again, thank you so much for your time and your work with Venus Doggess of Love.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Natasha, and thanks for this great initiative that you started here with Animalia.
So that was Elspeth Duncan, our first guest on Animalia. You can keep up with all her amazing rescue stories and with her adorable archaeologist Venus on Facebook and Instagram at Venus Doggess of Love. So this is the point at which I offer a bit of commentary on the interview. The point that Elspeth made about some persons buying pedigree dogs or cats as a status symbol. How do you feel about that? I mean, I'm an avid adopt-don't-shop person myself, and that's going to be one of the mantras of this podcast. But do you think people are aware of just how many dogs and cats are in need of adoption? Of course, this all ties into the need to spay and neuter to keep the pet population down, but I don't think there's enough education, and I want to stress on that word, education, about the urgent need for adopters in Trinidad and Tobago. The $5 or $10 or $15,000 you spend on a pug, a Persian, or a husky can take care of dozens of animals in shelters right now. And I'm not saying that pedigree dogs or cats shouldn't exist, or people shouldn't purchase them. I'm simply saying that there ought to be better legislation in place to regulate the sale of domestic animals as one means of tracking breeders and importers of these animals. We have all heard the horror stories about animal breeding. I'm not sure what the situation is in TNT, but best believe we will be addressing this topic on Animalia. And while we're speaking about legislation, let me fill you in on a little detail regarding my matter with Toro. So, after reporting the incident to the police, my counsellor, and the chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, I decided to take it up a level to the ministers with responsibility for agriculture, local government, and the Attorney General. In that letter, I carefully detailed how the current legislation, the Dog Control Act and the Summary Offences Act, was lacking in specifics about who would be responsible for attending to straying or out-of-control dogs. The police are reluctant to act. The corporation passes the buck to the TSPCA, who is woefully under-resourced and cannot reasonably be expected to run behind every call for help. I have since received 2 written responses to my letter from the first 2 ministers that I mentioned. And while I am grateful for the responses, I am not satisfied with their content. Suffice it to say, the Minister of Agriculture pointed me to the recently amended Animals (Diseases and Importation) Act, which he says is the first step to treating with the stray population. But the Act speaks to the appointment of one person, one public officer, who is to be called an inspector, to handle all the 1,000,001 issues addressed in the legislation, most of which deal with animals used in agriculture. So I plan to invite the Minister of Agriculture, whomever is sitting in the chair after the 10th of August, to explain in fuller detail how this legislation is supposed to treat with the serious problem of stray animals that we currently have in Trinidad and Tobago. The main suggestion that I put forward in my correspondence, which I think is the most appropriate in the circumstances. And I'm not a lifelong animal activist, but I think it's appropriate, which was to establish animal control units in every regional corporation. These units would be staffed with trained animal welfare experts, people who are trained to handle animals, and municipal police officers. In every corporation, there's a cadre of officers who are assigned to the corporation. They have the same powers as regular police. And this staff will be backed up by adequate shelter space in each corporation to address the immediate needs of each city or corporation. Alongside the personnel, you also have shelter space to keep animals, and hopefully they can be adopted out. because that will be one of the remits of the unit. And the unit is intended to be a central point so that people know who to call when they see an animal in distress, so that the police will not be the first point of contact, because in many cases they ought not to be, so that the care and protection of animals is humanely addressed round the clock by a local authority who can respond appropriately to the complaint or report. Not rocket science, right? But this will be a feature of this podcast, deep diving into the mechanisms and systems that are meant to protect animals and seeing how they can be improved. The other minister, by the way, said he'll pass on my correspondence to the chairman of the corporation, who incidentally was copied on the letter. So that's the end of my rant for episode 1. I hope you're still there hanging in with me. We have one final segment to go, and it's called Rescue Me. You know, like the Madonna song, Rescue Me. Your love has given me hope. Every week we will ask our guests to describe an animal in need of foster or adoption and feature its picture on our Animalia socials. So here's Elspeth Duncan's Rescue Me.
I have two very sweet male brother cats. They're now about 8 months old. I've been fostering them since November 2019. If I could keep them, I would, but I can't. They're adorable. Their names are Krispin and Angelo. They're loving, they're playful, they're entertaining, they're house-trained. They bring a lot of joy. I love them dearly, but as I said, I can't keep them, so I'd like them to go to a home that would treat them just as well or better than I do.
And they're good with other cats, dogs, other animals?
They're good with other cats, they're good with dogs. My cat, Abba, they're great with him, and they practically grew up with my dogs. So they're very good with the dogs too.
And that's episode 1 of Animalia. I hope you enjoyed it and you'll keep coming back for more. I hope to release a new episode every Friday, so be sure to like and share Animalia the Pod on Facebook and Instagram. If you like what you hear and want to appear on the podcast, shoot me an email at animaliathepod@gmail.com or message me on the back end of the socials. Thanks again to Elspeth Duncan of Venus Doggess of Love, and thank you for listening. I'm Natasha saying take care until next time, and don't forget, love off your pets. Bye-bye.